Hello and thank you for joining us for this week's track guide for Daily Race B around Interlagos in association with Kireth eSports. We've got a bit of back to the old school this week with some old GT Sport favourites. So we've got Interlagos in Group 3s for Race B, and we've got Autopolis in Group 4 for Race C. So BOP's back on, so no tuning required for this week, but there are some slight differences to how this how this track drove in GT Sport. So you definitely want to be a lot more careful of the curbs. They're absolutely lethal in parts, whereas I used to recommend using these to rotate the car. I would stay away from them now in most situations, and just got to be a little bit more gentle feeding in the power. Last week on Daytona I was using traction control on 1, but again with the BOP on, you don't really need to use that. As long as you're just a little bit delicate with the last sort of 10% of the throttle, then you'll be absolutely fine with no TC on. So managed to get a decent quality time here, so let's go into the lap guide and break it down. So here we are for the start of the lap then, and we're in the McLaren this week. You can also use the Peugeot RCZ, that seems to be another really good choice if you don't have this car. First brake marker we're looking out for is the 50 metre board, so braking just before it, in a straight line. You want to turn in late after you go under the shadow from the bridge, down in second gear and catch a little bit of this curb here on the left. Don't get too much of that curb because again it will spin the car, and you do have to cut a lot of this one, but short shift to third as you come over it. So you see I have a lift, short shift to third and then get on the power. This curb on the left hand side is another one that you used to use a lot, but it's okay to just run on it a little bit, but don't have too much steering lock when you're on there, or again you could spin the car. Next we're braking just after the 100 metre board, so again braking heavy in a straight line, down to third gear and then trail brake in, and you want to get 2 tyres just onto this yellow, white and green curb there, and then you can feed the power in quite early. Do be careful that you're not running off too wide onto the right there, because if you get your tyres too far onto that curbing on the right, you will definitely spin out. Here you're revving fourth nearly all the way out, and then you see I switched to fifth just for a moment to stop the car from topping out. Touch of brake, clip this curb on the inside when you're in fourth, then down to third to keep the car tight in and just feed the power, and you see I'm feathering it a little bit just to make sure that the back end doesn't come out. We're then braking on this sort of arced black tyre mark on the left hand side. I do use first just for a second to turn the car in, but you can keep it in second round there. Little burst of power before the hairpin, but then a dab of brake to make sure that the car stays into the left, and about halfway around this hairpin you see I start feeding the power in gradually until I feel comfortable to put on full throttle just on the exit. For this next corner you want to get on the brakes pretty much as soon as the car straightens out, just before this Astro on the left hand side, down into first to turn the car in, but then do short shift to second for accelerating out. And for the left hander here you want to lift fairly early, so you see I do a bit of a lift, short shift to third and then feed the power back in. And now we're braking about halfway between the end of the curb and the 50 metre board, so a couple of car lengths before the 50 metre board. On the brake, second gear, clip a tiny bit of this inside curb and then you can feed the power in. Just be careful when you're accelerating on this curbing on the right, because if you get too far over onto it you can easily spin the car. One other thing worth mentioning, if you did drive the McLaren a lot in GT Sport, you'll know it like to be short shifted. Definitely don't short shift it here, you want to rev the gears all the way out, and that was good enough for a 1:32.318 in the end, so a pretty decent lap time for the start of the week. Hope that helps. Please do drop a like if you enjoyed the video or you found it useful, and consider subscribing for more GT7 track guides and races to come. We'll let the lap play out at full speed now, and good luck with your qualifying.